we can't imagine it's easy to prepare to be beaten or beat someone up, for that matter. So it's understandable when we learn of UFC or MMA fighters having pre-fight rituals before their big fights. But when we dig a little bit deeper into this phenomenon, we come across some very unconventional ways some of these fighters used to alleviate pre-fight nerves. Here's a countdown of some of the weirdest pre-fight rituals fighters use. At number 8, Diego Sanchez. Widely recognized as one of the most eccentric fighters in UFC's history, Diego Sanchez has surprised his fans ever since his debut back in 2005. Also known as the Nightmare, Sanchez has performed yoga in a storm and walked with a cross to the octagon in the past. Suffice to say, him doing weird things is a norm. Even so, his pre-fight ritual is only known to be arguably the most memorable of all time. Apparently, it began with his fight with Joe Stevenson at UFC 95. Diego Sanchez walks to the octagon and pumps his fist repeatedly while shouting "yes" as loudly as he possibly can. But apparently, the show of insanity gained mass appeal from fans and has only added to his popularity. The funny thing is, it isn't actually his idea at all, but might have been inspired by his mentor, Tony Robbins. In Robinson's book, he claims the chants help an individual to achieve the maximum positive mindset. No one really knows for certain though, but it doesn't really matter either. Next, at number 7, Matt Lindland. There's not much Matt Lindland hasn't tried when it comes to weird pre-fight rituals. Lindland, named the Law, would simply not shower in the week leading up to his fights solely to make his opponents feel miserable when they got close enough to him in the ring. Due to the accumulated sweat and dirt on him from pre-fight practice runs over the week, the stench of him would act as a subtle barrier his opponents would have to cross when they got near him in the cage. Funnily enough, most of his opponents throughout the year smiled and went through with it, given that a smelly fighter isn't exactly the end of the world, and there were lots of opponents since Lindland was an expert grappler who once won against an Olympic wrestler, silver medalist. One competitor in particular, though, actually ended up calling him out. Quinton Rampage Jackson, after winning against Lindland in 2006, actually compared fighting Lindland to fighting a big-ass smelly skunk in the post-fight interview. Big-ass smelly skunk. And asked Matt to take a shower, man. Now we have Clay Guida. Clay Guida is one of the few fighters who go insanely ballistic before their show in this day and age. That might have to do with his pre-fight ritual involving his brother. In fact, the bizarre pre-fight ritual Clay Guida partakes in involves his brother Jason and takes place right before he steps into the cage. After reaching a planned point before the octagon, Guida turns to Jason, his elder brother, and a fighter as well, one who weighs more than the Carpenter, of course, and proceeds to get slapped in the face repeatedly. When explaining the crazy tradition, Guida said that Jason started doing it in smaller shows, and he's never actually been hit as hard in a professional fight. He knows he wouldn't get hit in a fight as hard as his brother hits him, and that's the one thing that gets him so amped up and excited. He also said that he knew the whole crowd wonders what's wrong with the pair, and that gets them all excited as well. He then credited his brother for getting him where he's now. Next, at number 5, Ronda Rousey. Next up is an interesting one. Ronda Rousey's pre-fight ritual is based on science as it is in deriving enjoyment, if you will. Many joke that Travis Brown, her husband, might have been deeply saddened by his wife's decision to retire, considering Rousey's pre-fight ritual was having copious amounts of intercourse right before. Her explanation for it was that for girls, it raises your testosterone, so she took full advantage of said scientific fact in the days leading up to the game. At the same Jim Rome show, Rousey elaborated, saying, "Not with, like everybody, I don't put out Craigslist ads or anything, but you know, if I got a steady, I'm gonna be like, yo, fight time's coming up." Now we have George St. Pierre. This will be as concerning as it'll be amusing, so St. Pierre's big pre-fight ritual actually confused the fans about its true intention. Before his fights in the octagon, St. Pierre was seen tweaking his own nipples. He apparently first came with the idea after he read some ancient fighting myth that claimed that tweaking one's nipples brought one good luck before big fights. St. Pierre, or as he's nicknamed, Rush, soon became somewhat of a trendsetter though, amusingly enough. His teammates at Jackson's MMA started doing the same thing before their fights, including Rashad Evans, Nate Marquardt, Keith Jardine, and David LaSalle. When asked to explain due to fans' immense confusion, the head coach of the team, Greg Jackson, was more than happy to set the record straight. Jackson claimed that he'd been asked if the move simulates electricity through the body, and the answer is no, it doesn't, he said, and explained that the team members were just a bunch of big dorks, that's why they were doing it. His teammates just went along with it as an inside joke. Next, at number 3 is Jon Jones. Jon Jones admitted to his pre-fight ritual on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast way back in 2016, and it was concerning to say the least. He admitted openly to partying a week before every single fight and called it a crazy thing himself. He admitted on the podcast that he did it through his whole career. He claimed to know that it was stupid, but it was this mental crutch that he had. "I literally would, 1 week before every fight, I would go out and I would get blacked out wasted." He said that his logic at the time was that if his opponent somehow beat him, he could look himself in the mirror and say that the reason he lost was that he got hammered the week before he fought. lot. In a happy turn of events though, Jones claimed that he finally beat the bad habit, but isn't sure that doing so led him to get the results he hoped to get. He said that his Ovince St. Preux fight was the first that he didn't do that, and it was his worst performance. Next we have Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's pre-fight entrance has already been on the list of top fighting entrances of all time due to his clever song choices, but it seems as though his pre-fight ritual may just be as memorable, if not more. Before his fight with Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205, McGregor, who's been deemed the notorious one, actually took things to a whole other level when he stole a pre-fight ritual from WWE chairman Vince McMahon directly. McGregor used the infamous billionaire strut, where he walked around the octagon while swinging his arms in a highly dramatized manner, something McMahon would also do when entering the WWE ring. After McGregor got his hands on it though, the strut became infamous and went viral with fans and other athletes, like footballers also doing it. McMahon's opinions on his strut being stolen are still unknown. Despite the claims he made McMahon's strut perfect and enhanced it, McGregor actually admitted in an interview that he loved the WWE legend and even called the chairman a mad bastard in the same interview. And at number 1, Lyoto Machida. Now this may be the most unhinged ritual on the list, so you should prepare yourself. We don't know what's worse, that it's something he openly admits to doing, or if it's something that he does every single day. The former UFC light heavyweight champion, Machida, said that he started doing this when he first contracted a bit of a cold that he couldn't get rid of, so he asked his father for advice. The advice he received, however, was a bit unconventional, one could say. Lyoto's father, Yoshida Machida, asked his son to try drinking his own urine, pee, as he had read that it had healthy benefits and was almost like a vaccine that may help flush out the system. Machida claims that he did it, and when he did it, his cold cleared up, and that was all the proof he needed. He now drinks his own urine every single day. I mean, if you're weirded out, let us tell you that urine therapy is a practice that has existed for many years, although almost no medical expert actually believes in its healing properties. If anything, drinking one's own urine can be detrimental to their health and well-being. I mean, that is a bunch of waste that's coming out of your body. For example, one would assume that would be a necessary thing to do in a survival situation, but in fact, due to urine's high sodium content, it makes you even more, well, dehydrated. Even so, it doesn't seem like Machida has suffered any harm from doing so. And that's all for today. Which of these fighters do you think has the craziest pre-fight ritual? Let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed watching today's video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to get notified every time we post a new video.